Hello everyone, welcome to the demo of the Stage Manager. Before moving on to the demo, I just wanted to recap some of the terms that I'm using to describe what the Stage Manager modules are. Based on Professor Locke's suggestions, there are a few changes over here. So now a dialog is what we create when a trigger match happens. So for every trigger match, we are going to be creating metadata information for the dialog, information such as the name, the the message that or the trigger that caused that particular dialog to happen, and of course the start time. Then again, we have the scene, which is just a collection of these dialogues and which are grouped logically. For example, in the introduction scene, there will be a bunch of dialogues. Similarly, in the personal history scene, there will be a bunch of dialogues. So we collect metadata information such as the scene ID, scene name, and of course an array of dialogues that are contained in this scene. Moving on, now there is a generic data metadata type called the marker. The marker, being an independent data type, can be assumed as something that we are actually going to put on the timeline. The scene and the dialogue can be thought of as extensions or specializations of a generic marker type. The marker metadata type is generic because it also helps us create a lot of other events that we would like to capture. For example, if the user does not send us a message for a long time, we would like to record that, and for that we can create a dummy marker. Again, the dummy marker that I'm going to show as an example in the demo is one where the user does not send us any message, or if the user sends us a blank message. This is just to show the potential of the markers, and probably we can increase the marker library as required. So coming to the timeline, a timeline is basically going to be a collection of these markers which are sorted by time. The stage manager again is this module which is the core of this entire module. What the stage manager does is that it receives the messages, creates the required scene or dialogues or other markers based on whatever trigger matches have occurred. And of course, the stage manager is also responsible for storing the messages into the transcript and sending the response back to the user. And now we have the timeline widget, which is basically a JavaScript widget which I got from this source. It's an open source project, and it has a really nice look and feel to add to the GUI of this of the conversation transcript. Now, before moving on to the demo, I just wanted to show you the flowchart of how this process happens. On the browser, when using the chat window, the user sends a message. We receive this message in the Stage Manager module, which is this one. And in the Stage Manager module, we parse this message and check for any trigger matches that occur. In case there is a trigger match, we would create the appropriate dialog for that particular trigger match. If it is a miscellaneous trigger match, then we would create a miscellaneous trigger. Or if a dialog whose scene has not been created is being called, then we would also create the scene. Each of these three metadata types, or more of these, we can have different types of miscellaneous markers. So each of these metadata types are then translated into markers, and a list of these markers is what we call the timeline. Now, when we need to update the timeline GUI, the timeline widget GUI on the browser, what we have to do is to convert this timeline of markers into a JSON file, and this JSON file is what populates our front-end GUI of the timeline widget, which we are just about to see. Also, there is the response which is being sent back via the stage manager module over here. So let us move on to the demo. Now this stage manager demo uses a dummy script. This is the same one that I had used for my JavaScript version of the stage manager when I was demoing that, but this version of course is in PHP. And we have this neat timeline over here. This timeline is basically a very customizable, highly customizable widget, and what we have here as of now are bands, and they move in synchrony. And of course, these bands, I have scaled them down to the hour and the minute level to show when our conversation occurs in time. But we can of course change them or modify them as we like. Now coming back to testing this out, let us say if we were to send the message hello. If we send message hello, we see here in the timeline that the dialog for hello has been created. We have received the response back as hey, so which was given in the script, and the corresponding scene for that particular dialog, which is the introduction scene, has also been created on the timeline. So this is the scene, and if you click on it, it can give you more information about what the scene is, when did it start, and what is the approximate end time as of now. If you click on the dialogue, it gives you a lot more information about what the dialogue was. So what was the trigger, what was the response, what's the name of this particular dialogue, which in this case is greeting, and when did it happen. And I've used a couple of icons that I had downloaded for the internet to just illustrate that this can be done. Now, if we, let's say the use of this particular information that we have over here is going to be that it can help us point out to the script reviewer that there are messages that are being repeated for some reason in the timeline. So for example, if I were to come back and let's say again send a hello message in the timeline, oh, we have it here. It shows us that the hello message in a red color, in a different color, and I programmed it this way to basically indicate in a long flow of conversation that a red message means that the same message has been repeated twice. Now another thing that I wanted to show over here in this example was that what if the user is asking the same question twice in different words but hitting the same trigger. For example, what is your age and how old are you are probably going to hit the same trigger for the age of the user. So let us see what happens if the user types in these messages. Let us say the user first asks, what is your name? Well, in the what is your name message, which is part of the personal details scene, we get a dialogue that is created by the name what is your name. Now let us ask, what is your age? Again we see that as part of the personal details scene, what is your age is created. Now let us say if I were to say something like or ask him how old are you? Here we see that how old are you, this particular dialogue has been marked orange. Now if we click on this dialogue, I've put in an icon showing that it is probably a repeat. Now such occurrences can then, when put on a timeline, can help the reviewer understand that a particular trigger was asked in how many different ways, and what was were the different responses that that he had got for that. So if he sees that what is your age and how old are you are two different entities, but they're hitting the same trigger, he can probably open up and look into what were the responses. In this one, it says I'm 21 years old, and this one here says 21 years and 3 months. So he can probably identify different responses and the different types or the different ways in which these questions were being asked. So the last thing that I wanted to point out that is possible with the stage manager is of course using generic markers. to define different types of events, such as interruptions or wrong messages being sent. So what I have programmed for is, like, if the user sends an empty message to us, we can indicate that we received an empty message, like this one over here, and this particular interrupt message is as of now only showing us that this does not have any message or an empty text was sent, but we can probably increase this library to include a large array of interrupt messages, those including the instances such as the user's messages were delayed by a long time, or there was no conversation for some time, and things like that. So we can potentially do that with the stage manager modules as well. And so let us just type goodbye, and here we get to, so we see again the exit scene has been created. And so this is the demo for the stage manager. And thank you for watching.